Welcome back into the Rounding Third podcast. I'm Nick. We got Harrison and Sean tonight. How we doing, fellas?
Good boys. How we
boys.
doing?
How we doing?
Good for a Monday night. Talking baseball as always. Before we get going, make sure you just follow, like on Facebook. You can subscribe on YouTube. You can watch on Twitch if that's your thing as well. And we're still working on Apple and Spotify and all of that stuff. I'm sure eventually we'll get there. But
we will.
Technology is hard.
We're getting closer. They don't like the length of our podcast. We're working on it.
So, sounds good. All right. Leading off tonight, we're going to start off with hot stove stuff. Manny Machado is opting out, like we kind of figured, but he wants 10 years, $400 million. Takes?
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Is Machado worth 10-400?
No. Aaron Judge got 9 and 360. All these shortstops, I think the top of the market was Trey Turner at $30 million. Yeah. I don't see how Manny Machado breaks low 30s if he's lucky. Especially because he's going to be No, true, but he's at arguably a position that's at a lower value, being third base. Shortstop's typically got a higher valuation.
Could you see him moving to shortstop?
I mean, at 31 for a little while, maybe.
He played it.
Did. Yep. In Baltimore, he was a shortstop.
Yeah. I don't know. It's one of those things that the player's the player. So, like, theoretically, like a player that puts up the offensive numbers that Machado puts up on a regularly consistent basis, whether he's playing defense at shortstop or third base, like, should it matter that much? Probably not, but it does. It just does.
Yeah.
It's shortstop and second base. They just get paid different. It's just the way it works. I don't know at 31 years old when this season, or I should say, so he turns 31 in July. So, by July of next season, he'll be 32.
Yep.
Am I starting someone's contract at 32, paying them $40 million a year, taking that into their low 40? I just don't know. Like, I feel like that's so much. And considering, you got to remember this too. By the time that contract is in the middle of it, we're likely going to be in a new CBA in which a salary cap is implemented. So if you're a team that's signing him to 10 years, $400 million, likely 60% of that contract will be paid to him while your team is under a salary cap. Are you going to be wanting to pay a good significant chunk of your salary cap to a 37-year-old Manny Machado? I don't know.
No. Are you going to pay $40 million a year to a guy who's 38, 39, 40, 41, 42?
That's crazy. Like,
I
don't know. I just think it's a lot. Like, you're asking a lot.
Yeah. So apparently he had set this deadline with the Padres of February 16th was his contract negotiation window. And that's when he announced he was opting out when they didn't come to terms. Right. The Padres offered to tack 5 years, $105 million onto the back end of that contract to get him to 42, but they weren't going to give him $40 million a season, $30 a season, or $30 million a season for the last 5 years of it. They're going to give him 21, which I think for a 37, 38, 42-year-old Manny Machado is still a pretty generous amount.
Absolutely.
Oh, I think so too. And considering if you're Machado too, you're doing it in a place in San Diego where for that part of the contract, they have Xander under contract. It likely means that they're going to try. Juan Soto is likely a pipe dream, but I'm sure they're going to try to keep Juan Soto. This is not going to be a bare bones franchise. There's obviously players are going to come and go, but you're going to be playing on the left side of the infield. If you sign that extension and you agree to that, you're going to be playing on the left side of the infield with Xander for the next 10 years.
Yep.
Like, what? How do we say no to that?
Yeah, that team's going to be good for a while.
So it tells you that not only, like, he wants to be the centerpiece of an organization.
Yep.
is what he wants.
Yeah.
Right? He wants $40 million a year. He wants to be the guy that ESPN puts up when they say Wednesday Night Baseball, and the picture that comes up on TV, he wants it to be Manny Machado. Which, whatever, man. I mean, he's earned it. I mean, he's a hell of a player. He's, perennial MVP candidate year in and year out. So, I mean, I'm not knocking him for it, but
that was always the kind of the word on him when he was a free agent the first time, was that he's incredibly selfish, and he has to be the guy. And in San Diego, he was the guy for a little while there. And now they brought in Soto and Tatis Jr.'s, they put a lot of emphasis behind Tatis Jr. Now Xander's there, and now he's just another guy on a roster that's loaded with stars. And he immediately opts out, which tells you exactly what he's in it for, which is what Sean's saying, is that he wants to be the headliner, he wants to be the guy, he wants to get paid like the best guy on the team, and he's not that anymore in San Diego. So he very well may be looking to move on and go somewhere else where he can be the guy, even if they don't win.
And it's probably not fair for me to say, and Nick, I'll let you cut in after this, but I don't know. But it's probably why he left LA. A short period of time as a Dodger. I mean, imagine if you have a chance to be, especially at that point in time, like he wasn't playing in LA when they were a doormat franchise. Like, this was a really good franchise with good young players, a good manager, a good front office. Well, decent manager, good front office.
Wasn't he in the World Series they played against the Red Sox?
Yeah, but he was just a rental, though, right? He went over at the deadline, and he wasn't going to stay.
He went over at the deadline, but I'm pretty sure there was an offer there for him.
There was.
Yeah,
because he said no to that, and then a couple years later, they went and got Trey Turner.
Yeah. I just think, Machado aside, look at the contracts coming out. The contracts are trending downward, right? The years are increasing. The annual value is decreasing. This is the same way as you see a lot of these NFL teams trying to get underneath the cap. They're stretching out the contract a little bit to keep the money down underneath the cap that we know is coming. So maybe teams are starting to trend in that area, towards that salary cap coming. Yes, it's in 4 or 5 years, but if they start doing it now, then it's, they're not going to have to change anything when that cap comes in.
It's also a way to protect.
And he's not worth $40 million.
No, it's a way to protect some of that downside risk. You give a guy an average of 30 or 28 million bucks a year. Well, really, for the first 4 or 5 years, you're really giving him like 40. Then the back years, you're really kind of giving them 18 or 20, and you're averaging it out and calling it, we're going to split the difference and just spread it over all these years. Because I can't imagine giving 42-year-old Manny Machado $40 million. Like, that just seems insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, in particular, and again, I mean, it's important to note, particularly when there's likely to be a salary cap at that time.
Right.
Like, that's the one thing we always said about baseball, about like, can you imagine they're paying this guy that much money? It's like, well, it's not my money. What do I care? Like, it doesn't hurt the team, because if the owner's willing to pay it, well, now it's going to start hurting the team. Like, now the team will be affected and impacted, because if there's a salary cap and you're allotting 20% of that to one player who's 41 years old, that's just not going to fly.
No.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Well, staying with the Padres, they go ahead and they sign Michael Wacha, and then they also sign Cole Hamels to a minor league deal. So Cole Hamels might see major league time if the 16 pitchers that the Padres signed, this offseason, a few of them get hurt. I mean, Michael Wacha to have on the backside of that rotation, or a long relief guy, that's just going to solidify that rotation for sure.
Well, and with Wacha's history that he's only going to be available for probably 2/3 of the season anyways, and you've got enough bodies where you can mix and match and work people in. But Wacha was really good for the Red Sox last year when he was healthy, and they're getting him for not a lot, and he's an awesome depth piece.
I like the idea of the depth piece with him too, because they went out early in free agency and they gave Seth Lugo a chance to come over from New York, and they're giving him a chance in the starting rotation. And Seth Lugo hasn't been a starter in a while. Like, he's been that guy that comes out of the bullpen with his nasty stuff. I mean, the electric fastball, the disgusting curveball. But he wants to start, and they're giving him a chance to start. But Michael Wacha also gives you the opportunity. Let's say Seth Lugo doesn't work out as a starter. You're not losing much. I mean, you can slide Mike Wacha right in. Seth Lugo goes back to where he's comfortable in the pen, and he's now a legitimate weapon coming out of the bullpen. Like, you're not really losing much. And I wonder if San Diego was looking at, and they're just going, I can't believe he's still there. Like, they probably weren't expecting Michael Wacha to still be there. And they're saying, he's still here. Let's see if we can get him for the low price of, and they did. And you got to give him credit. I think that's going to turn out to be a good move for them. I do. I think he's going to do real well in San Diego.
And I think to that point, Sean, nobody expected him to still be out there. Everybody thought the Red Sox would grab him up. And now all of a sudden the Red Sox announced this week that Brian Bellows got some potential issues. And you're thinking, man, it'd be really nice to have Michael Wacha in camp, but where the hell is he?
Yeah.
I mean, that rotation just, I mean, we'll get to it in our NL West preview, but I think that rotation puts the Padres over the edge for me. I mean, the front three alone with Darvish, Snell, and Musgrove.
Yep.
And then you add those depth pieces in there too.
You got 3 or 4 guys you could pick to be your 4 and 5 starters. I mean, you got options.
Yeah, absolutely. White Sox re-signed Elvis Andrus for his 28th major league season. That guy's been around forever. So I mean, under the radar signing, but I know the Red Sox were kind of looking at him for a little bit. And
where the hell were the Red Sox on that one?
Yeah, I think they're happy with, Kike or Mondesi at short, or revolving that door and just hoping that Story comes back at some point.
Well, I still wonder if the Sox are still making an effort with San Diego for that the Korean. I can never get the Korean guy's name right.
Oh, Kim, it's not Kim, is it? Ha-Seong Kim? Ha-Seong.
I think it might be Ha-Seong Kim.
Yeah.
Is that? I can never get his name right. I gotta look it up now.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Ha-Seong Kim, that's the right one.
Ha-Seong Kim. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm still wondering. It makes too much sense. It makes too much sense. He defensively can play both second base and shortstop. He's fine at the plate. Like he's not going to win any Silver Sluggers. He's not going to go out there and put the game on his back. But he's serviceable at the plate. He's a good base runner. He can cause some havoc when he gets on base. He's damn reliable defensively. Like it makes too much sense where he can play second, he can play short. Kike can play second, Kike can play short. Mondesi can play both. I mean, really the only guy that's kind of hampered by one or the other is Arroyo. It's just a second baseman. But it gives you a lot of flexibility. I don't know. I could be talking out my ass, but I find it hard to believe that are the Sox okay with what they have going in? Yeah, like I'm sure they feel okay about it. Are they pumped? No. Like I just find it so hard to believe that these guys aren't. And what's Kim doing in San Diego?
He's
not going to get any at bats. He's not going to play.
He's playing. He's starting at not with Bogarts there now. Yeah,
right. That's what I'm saying. He's not going to play.
No, right. He's got no home now. Like he's going to be a backup. I mean,
what they could do is they move Cronenworth to the outfield.
Yeah, they're still projecting that Kim is going to be the leadoff hitter and the second baseman.
Yeah,
because you're gonna slide Cronenworth over to first base, and you're gonna push Tatis Jr. in the outfield when he gets back. But I mean, so you've got an opening day projected lineup for the Padres of Kim at second, Soto, Machado, Bogarts, Cronenworth at first, Nelson Cruz DHing, Matt Carpenter in the outfield, Austin Nola catching, Trent Grisham in the outfield. When Tatis Jr. gets back, I'm assuming Carpenter probably goes to the bench and becomes a sub.
Right. But think about if you're San Diego, when Tatis comes back, right, and which is April 20th. I mean, he's missing a handful of games to start the year.
Yeah, not a lot.
Wouldn't you be much more comfortable? And this is just obviously a Red Sox fan from my point of view. Wouldn't you be more comfortable with Carpenter can play first base, Carpenter can play the outfield, with Cronenworth playing second, and going and bending a team like the Red Sox over a barrel for a guy that they need? Like Ha-Seong Kim is not winning you any batting titles at second base. I'm not saying that he stinks. Like I think he's valuable for the Red Sox. I think he's much more valuable for Boston than he is for San Diego. Like if anything, a guy that hits 225 is a hamper.
Yeah.
is going to hamper that San Diego lineup, like regardless of what he does defensively.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like how many times is like it, I don't know. I guess I just want it to happen too much, but
well, I think the hard part too is that the Padres really like Kim because he is so versatile. It might be one of those where unless you blow me away with an offer, we're just going to hang on to the kid.
Sure. And that's fair. And I get that. I mean, I just, they do have a ton of versatile pieces, though. Cronenworth is versatile. Matt Carpenter is versatile. Tatis, I mean, we can dump. I mean, he's versatile. I mean,
absolutely.
Tatis can play pretty much anywhere.
But Tatis still has 2 months to mess it up somehow. So he's still got time. So
no, I for some reason I might look like a fool. I think he's really going to play it straight and narrow here. I think he realizes some of the things he said and the way he's come out. Like I think he realizes that, we get no more slack here.
Yeah. Well, he'd be stupid to keep playing this game. He just needs to get on the field, play, shut everybody up, prove that he is the guy that everybody thought he was, and then all the talk will end. But if he continues to screw around and do stupid stuff and miss time and not perform, he's just going to continue to have people riding his ass.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing, Frankie Montas for the Yankees is out for the season with shoulder surgery. So they make the deal for him at the deadline. He gets hurt, doesn't help him in the playoffs, and then bang, he is out with shoulder surgery and is done. So Yankees are without him.
That's looking like a really bad deal now.
It does, but I have a hard time knocking it just because I was the guy at the time the Yankees pulled it off. I wanted the Sox to go get him, So it's one of those where like it looks bad. Some of those just end up looking bad. I will say Montas was one of those weird guys that had those weird stats where like outside of Oakland, his numbers were average.
He did.
But like inside, weird. And it was like, is that just because like he benefits from the ridiculous amount of out of bounds space that they have? Like he just, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't really make any sense, but at the same time it does a little bit. So I don't know. Tough break for the Yankees, but
yeah. And then the last thing I have for leading off,
and I agree. Real quick on that, Nick. I agree. Montas was a trade that had to get made, and there's other teams that wish they had made it. It's just too bad to see that he's going to end up contributing nothing.
Right.
Yeah, and who knows when he comes back, what happens? I mean,
right.
We'll see.
Yeah, good stuff.
And then, last thing I have leading off, Clayton Kershaw is out of the WBC. Mm-hmm. He is out because of insurance issues. He's too old. They won't insure his contract. End of story. So it's not injury related. No. He's just out because he can't be insured.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's one of the things I think a lot of us don't realize happens behind the scenes. Because keep in mind, these guys are all on guaranteed contracts. So if Kershaw goes out to the World Baseball Classic and blows his arm out, misses the season, the Dodgers still pay that salary. So MLB works with insurance companies, and one in particular, I can't remember the name of it, that actually when these guys go to the WBC, they buy insurance for the contracts. So if Clayton Kershaw goes out and blows his arm out, he still gets paid, but the insurance company reimburses the Dodgers for the cost of that contract. So it's not coming out of the Dodgers payroll. So in this case, there were two players on the WBC rosters that could not get insurance because of age and condition. Clayton Kershaw was one. He dropped out because the Dodgers would not waive it. And number two is Miguel Cabrera. Couldn't also not get insurance, but the Tigers waived it to let him go play. Because honestly, if Kershaw gets hurt, the Dodgers are screwed. Cabrera gets hurt. I don't think the Tigers are no better or worse.
But it's only that, though. Like, it's I mean, how is a guy like Miguel Cabrera really going to get himself badly hurt?
Yeah, it's unlikely.
Right? Like, Miguel Cabrera, I mean, he's going to hit for Venezuela. That's what he's going to do.
Yep.
Going to leg out doubles.
No.
Like, he's not, you know what I mean?
Hasn't done that in years.
He's going to put the ball over the fence, or, he's going to end up at first base. Like, there's not real risk. I get the Dodgers not waiving Kershaw, regardless of how much he means to them. It's like, buddy, like you could hurt yourself. Like your career could be over. We're trying to squeeze a couple more years out of you one by one, and your career could end. So like, I get that. Like I understand that.
Yep.
And the Dodgers don't have the depth that they used to. Like they didn't really put together that offseason where, You know, they could afford to lose a starting pitcher. Like, not saying Kershaw would go out and you know, get hurt and lose that spot, but the Dodgers aren't in a position to even risk that. So,
sure.
I mean, yeah. All right. Since we're talking about the Dodgers and everything, we are going to start fifth inning. We're going to go down. We're going to preview all the divisions week by week here until the start of the season. We are going to switch it up, and we're going to start in the NL West, which is where we usually end every time because, you know, us being homers, we always start in the AL East. So we're going to end with them, and we're going to start in the NL West. Does anybody have anybody different at the top of the division here? Who do we think is going to take it?
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, San Diego. Yeah, I don't think we have anyone different.
Yeah, I think the Padres win this division finally. I think it's close. I don't think the Dodgers are that far off. And I'll be curious how this whole Padres team comes together. You know, you got a lot of new faces. Soto didn't have a great second half there last year. Xander's new there. You got Tatis Jr. coming back. You got all these guys to mix in, insane amounts of talent. I do think they win it. I think the Dodgers are not that far behind, but the Dodgers took a huge step back this year.
Yeah, I just go to the star power they added, but I mean, I'm just going with the starting pitching staff. I mean, you got Darvish, you got Musgrove, Snell, Lugo, Nick Martinez, and then they just signed Waka. I mean, they just have the depth at the starting pitching. Then I think the Dodgers do, in my opinion. With a balanced schedule, the Padres aren't going to be playing the Dodgers 20 times and losing that matchup. What was it last year? Like 15-4.
It was bad.
It was outrageous.
It was pretty awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to belabor that one. Yeah, I think that's.
What's interesting is a lot of these simulators, including the Zip simulator, put the Padres and Dodgers neck and neck at 91 and 71.
So none of them even win 100 games, huh?
No, they're not predicting anybody in the NL West wins 100 games.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah.
They're predicting the division winners at 91 wins.
Do they have anyone winning 100?
No.
I didn't think so. I didn't think I saw any 100 wins.
No, Mets at 94 wins. 96 wins. Braves at 94 wins. Yeah, no, I don't see anybody at 100 wins.
Yeah.
So I kind of do take the depth comment back from the Dodgers because they did make 2 off-season acquisitions that could help them. They got Shelby Miller from the Diamondbacks.
Yep.
And they got Noah Syndergaard.
Well, and they signed JD Martinez, he will hit. Right. I mean, they've not had a good offseason, but it's not like they did nothing at all.
But yeah, I mean, their starting 5 are Kershaw, Urias, Gosselin, Dustin May, and Noah Syndergaard. I mean, that's not.
Yeah, they're still going to pitch.
It's not bad.
I mean, I think last year it was kind of like the Dodgers and the Padres. I think this year it's more like we've leveled it out now. You know, maybe the Padres are a hair better, but it's going to be. It should be a good race. The Dodgers are not as good as they once were. The Padres are better than they were. They probably meet somewhere in the middle, and I think they'll be battling for that division all the way to the end.
Yeah. So you guys agree Dodgers second then behind the Padres?
I think the Padres win that division by a couple of games.
I like the Giants, but I don't think the Giants are taking second place.
I agree.
But I like them.
They're not there yet, but they're not that far off either.
Not quite.
I mean, they were so weird having that 110 win season. Was it not last year or the year before? Like,
yeah, that was a fluke.
Like, what just happened?
Yeah, they got this kid they drafted 4 overall in 2018, the catcher there. That's supposed to be the heir apparent to Buster Posey. This is going to probably be a make or break year for him. I expect. I'm interested to watch him in spring training, kind of see how he's doing. I think if he has a good year and he comes up and does the things that they expect him to do, I can see the Giants making a little noise. I just don't know if all around as a whole club, if they can keep that up for a whole year with the balanced schedule. You know, not being able to play Colorado 20 times, like you don't really like that matters.
Yeah.
You know, so. We'll see. I still think they get third place, but I'm not so sure they're they're there yet.
Are you talking Joey Bart, the young guy?
Bart, yeah, yep. Bart, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it goes Giants, Diamondbacks, Rockies to fill out the rest of the NL West for me. I think Diamondbacks and Rockies are a coin flip. But I mean, the Diamondbacks lost Shelby Miller, was their stud down there. So like,
yeah,
I don't know who else pitches for them. And
Mad Bum.
Yeah,
trying to have a better year,
I guess. But yeah, that's how I would fill out the rest of that division.
Yeah, I look at it as you've got the Padres and Dodgers who are battling for the division, the Giants who are kind of on the outside looking in, and then the Rockies and the Diamondbacks who are just existing out there, for whatever, doing whatever it is they do.
Do you think the Giants could vie for a wild card spot? Yes or no?
Outside chance.
Too much in the NL East, huh?
I feel like
it's not just that. I mean, the NL Central's
too, not bad either. Like you've got the Brewers and the Cardinals,
and the Cubs are going to make noise. The Cubs might be the best defensive team in the National League this year. The Cubs got so much better defensively. So much better defensively.
Yeah, when you think playoffs, you got Padres, Dodgers, Braves, Mets, Cardinals. And then after that, the sixth team could easily be the Brewers. It could easily be the Cubs. It could be the Giants. With the Phillies, we're the Phillies in all this.
Phillies, that's right. Yeah.
I feel like the Giants. There's too much in the NL this year for them to really have a chance. I agree with Sean. Maybe if they catch fire at the right time, maybe they could slip in. But I think there's at least 6 or 7 teams ahead of them.
And who knows? The MLB could still change the playoff format. They got a month and a half to change it.
Everybody gets a trophy. Let's bring them all in.
I mean, it seems like they change the playoff format every other year. So maybe they'll let it ride this year and then change it again. But
I think when you look across the landscape of baseball, I think the NL is more loaded than the AL is right now.
I don't know. I don't know about loaded. I think the NL is more up in the air with like when you get past the top 4 or 5. Like you get past the division winners. Right? So you have your division winners, you have your San Diego and let's just say Mets, Atlanta, and then flip them.
Sure.
And then you have St. Louis, right? Like outside of that, then like you got San Francisco, you got the Phillies, you got the Cubs, you got the Brewers. And I do think the Cubs will make a major step this year. Like I think the Cubs are completely not talked about enough with what they did this offseason. Defensively, they added some pop offensively. I think this Suzuki guy is the real deal. He's only going to get better getting in the league more. So anyways, I still think the American League is just I don't know. I think like I'll take the Astros over anybody.
Yep.
I will take as records and I'll take the Yankees. I don't think the Yankees are going to win a title, but the Yankees are talented enough where they're going to win 95, 94, 96, 97 games. It's just what they're going to do.
Yep.
Right? Yeah, I guess maybe. I would take those 2 teams. Maybe the Mets are the only team in the National League I would take over those 2.
Yeah, I think the National League probably has 7 or 8 legitimately good teams. I think the American League's got 4 or 5, and then a bunch of teams that are like, "What the hell are they doing?"
I guess I'll give you that. I talked myself into agreeing with you. I'll give you that.
So I feel like the National League's a little bit more top heavy. The American League's a little bit more like who's going to emerge, because like the American League Central's a complete disaster. It's bad. Out west, you've got the Houston Astros, and then the Mariners like way behind them, and then everybody else. In the American League East is a big friggin' question mark, because you got the Yankees who are very good. You got the Blue Jays who I think got a little bit better. You got the Rays. I don't know. You got the Orioles who did nothing. You got the Red Sox who are kind of a mess. I don't know. I feel like in the National League, I think the National League is gonna be a lot of fun this year, because you literally have like 8 or 9 teams that should make a run at the playoffs. For the American League, I think you got 4 teams that have a legitimate claim and a bunch of teams that are going to fight over the last couple of spots.
I talked myself into agreeing with you. I'll give you that.
Which is funny, because really for years and years and years, it's been the American League was the strength.
Right.
And I feel like that pendulum has swung.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But look at who defected. You lost Justin Verlander. You lost Xander Bogaerts. These guys all jumped to the National League.
Yeah. Facts. All right. Yeah, so we're in agreement pretty much all the way down the board in the NL West here. We got Padres, Dodgers, Giants, Diamondbacks, Rockies. I mean, Diamondbacks and Rockies can flip a coin. They can decide who's last, but
they might be battling for the first pick in the draft.
Yeah. So, and again, we keep bringing this up and bringing it up, but I'm like really intrigued to see how much the balance schedule really does affect standings because, like we said, like the Dodgers aren't going to have the chance to go 4-15 against the Dodgers this year. They're just not going to play them that many times. So
yeah, and I think the big storylines in the NL West are going to be how well that Padres team comes together.
Yeah,
and then do the Dodgers miss the loss of players like Justin Turner, who were key contributors and leaders in that clubhouse?
Yeah.
Do the Dodgers fall apart a little bit because they don't have those key people anymore?
Right. I don't know. We will see. All right. So next week we will move to the NL Central and see how that one pans out. We are going to move on to the seventh inning where we threw out there. We're going position by position. We're going to do the best three all time, and then the best three first basemen right now. So position by position, we are going to go through that. Who wants to go first on this one while I pull out people's answers?
We're gonna start with all time.
Sure, we'll start with all time.
All right. So I'll go first. All time first baseman. I've got Lou Gehrig.
Mm-hmm.
I've got Stan Musial. I love Stan Musial. Huge Stan Musial fan. And Albert Pujols. There were a few guys that scared pitchers in their prime, like Albert Pujols did, and he actually could play some defense in his day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Who you got, Sean?
Lou Gehrig. I hate to piggyback on someone else's, but how do you not go with Lou Gehrig?
I say, how do you not?
That's the only one I'll take the same. I'll take Lou Gehrig. I'll take Jimmy Fox. Jimmy Fox absolutely raked at first base.
Oh yeah.
And you know who's one that's maybe not top three of all time, but I absolutely loved him. I will always love him. Jim Thome. Give me Jim Thome all day. I love
pointing the bat at the pitcher. I thought was the most epic stance ever.
Yo,
so great.
There are. How do I want to say this? Jim Thome. Let's just say it, Nick. He swung from his ass every swing. He didn't get cheated on a single swing in his a billion-year career.
No.
He was so like he was on everywhere he went was on good teams.
Yeah.
Like he was almost, I don't want to say never, but like he was just on teams that were just good. Like there's just something about the guy where he went, teams were good. Teams won. They competed in the playoffs. Those Cleveland teams, it's a shame they never won a title.
It really
is. It's an absolute shame.
Stacked.
It's a shame that he never won a title in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
Well, was it the 95 team that won 100-something games, went to the World Series and lost to the Braves? Like that team was so good. Loaded.
Stacked. Manny Ramirez hit like 7th for them. Like,
so
that's
good.
Crazy. But yeah, Jim Thome. I'll take Jim Thome.
Okay. Obviously Lou Gehrig for me. And then I also piggyback on Harrison with Albert Pujols. I mean, 700 home runs. One of the four guys. Like, I mean, come on now. And then my third is another 500 home run guy out of the South Side, Mr. Big Hurt, Frank Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
Dude was just an absolute beast. I mean, one of my favorite players to watch of all time. I've never seen such a ginormous human being in my life. But the guy was just tank too.
First baseman had a lot though. Like first base is a tough position to do top three all time because it's like everyone's top three is likely going to be different. I mean, all three of us, we had Lou Gehrig. Most people are going to have Lou Gehrig too. Like you got Jeff Bagwell in there, you got Harmon Killebrew, you got Miguel Cabrera, Todd Helton, Eddie Murray, Mark McGwire.
I mean,
like, Eddie Murray's a great one. Eddie Murray.
First base is loaded.
It was loaded. Yeah. Like you could have. I mean, if you had me take my bias hat, Eddie Murray. Like, how do you not put Eddie Murray in there?
Switch hitter, 500 homers. Like, absolutely.
So that was a loaded position.
We do have a
Bagwell and all these other guys that played there. I mean, so many good first basemen.
We do have a couple comments. We have Jackie Robinson, Don Mattingly, Albert Pujols. I think Jackie Robinson is. He did towards the end of his career.
Okay, I was gonna say I don't remember second base,
but I mean that's how I view Jackie Robinson.
Yeah.
Jackie Robinson's a second baseman, but and then honorable mention, steady Eddie Murray is what Randy commented. So,
Eddie Murray's a great one.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Brian said Stan Musial, Keith Hernandez, and
Keith
Albert
Hernandez,
Pujols.
another one. Yep.
And then a couple people, because the way I worded it, I said top 3 first basemen, so they listed like third baseman, and I was like, no, I wanted first baseman, guys. I was like, sorry, and then they didn't give me their first baseman, so whatever. So yeah, those are what we have.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure Nolan Arenado was one of those picks. I'll take him as the best all time in any position. I don't care.
Yeah, absolutely, I'll put him at first. I don't care.
He would win a Gold Glove instantly.
He win a the dude win a Gold Glove anywhere on the field. Anywhere.
The dude could win a Gold Glove if he was a designated hitter, for Christ's sakes.
For real.
Agreed.
All right, top 3 first baseman order right now.
Vladdy Jr., Paul Goldschmidt.
And
that third one's hard to pick. There's so many good choices.
Yeah, like
so I'm the same too as me. I took Matt Olson as my third. That's who I took.
Oh, okay. Matt Olson's a real good one.
But I was Goldschmidt, Vladdy Jr., Matt Olson. I mean, the third one there's so many good choices. It's crazy. First base is loaded in baseball right now.
Pete Alonso. I mean, I'm biased. I'll go with Pete.
Yeah, I mean, you got Pete Alonso. You got Freddie Freeman.
I say it that way. I'm not upset with Pete. Like I said it. No. But yeah, that'll be my third.
So I was on the fence between Pete and Freddie Freeman. So I'll take Freeman as my third.
Sure.
I'm so tired of Freddie Freeman. It's not even funny.
It's just because he's in LA. If he was still in Atlanta, you wouldn't be butthurt and you would love him.
You're probably right. You're probably right.
I know. It's fine.
Just not a fan anymore.
Our viewers kind of agree. Brian says Polar Pete, Vlad Jr., Freddie Freeman. Jim Britt says Arenado, Devers, and Ramirez.
I mean, those guys would all be great at first base too, for the record.
Right.
And actually, they're probably all going to play first base at some point in their career, anyways. So
yeah. So, but yeah, that was just funny because Nick Fanning did the same exact thing and picked the same 3. So Arenado, Devers, and Ramirez.
Good choices.
Yeah, we'll get to them eventually, fellas. But yeah. So I mean, first base all time is definitely so hard to pick. Like
it's loaded.
There is a lot for sure.
So many good players played first base.
Yep. Next week we will do. We'll move over to second base. There's a lot to pick from there too, so I'm excited for that one. And for current second baseman, other than Altuve, it's going to be interesting to see.
Well, it's a bit of a resurgent. Yeah, a bit of a resurgent position this year.
Yeah,
for the past couple of years.
You had a guy like Jazz Chisholm who's not even a second baseman anymore. Now he's back in the outfield. And
right. Yeah, absolutely. All right.
It's a position that and just before we move on, I'm interested to see what we get next week because it's a position that historically has been such a defensively driven position, which you put up with, offensive numbers, right? Because the guys defensively are so good. And not to say that, but I mean, a guy like Luis Arraez, that guy's not much of a glove. Like he doesn't do much for me defensively.
No, but he's good. He's serviceable.
He can help. But boy, is he going to help Miami offensively. That's what I'm saying. Like Miami's going to love his offense. So it's not something you're used to seeing from that position.
Right.
So,
and I think that's even true historically. You know, look at some of your best second basemen of all time. You know, the Joe Morgans and Ryan Sandbergs and Jeff Kents and Rod Carews. Like a lot of these guys were great on one side of the ball and serviceable on the other. And it's one of those positions that's always been. It's almost like catchers. You were either a great defensively or great offensively, but very few were good at both.
I mean, we've talked about it before. I would love to see that Rod Carew season where he hit like 371 with 0 home runs.
And he won the batting title. He won the MVP.
Yeah. I mean, imagine
no home runs.
You just walk up, you just go and watch him slap the ball all over the field all day long.
Dude,
Doesn't matter.
That must be the most he must have been one of the most frustrating guys to pitch against, because it's like the death of 1,000 cuts. Like, if I'm going to make a mistake, put it over the fence and call it a day. Like, if I'm gonna, every mistake is just like single, double, single, double. It's like, God damn it, man! Like, just put it over the fence and call it a day.
I literally just sawed that guy off, and he just legged out a double down the line because
and it's a lot like Tony Gwynn's peak years. I mean, Tony Gwynn's peak years, the guy would hit 390. He hit in 1994. The guy hit 394 with 12 home runs. The year after, 368 with 9 home runs. Like, they just wore you the hell out. But you think a guy that made
9 more than Rod Carew had in 1978.
Right. You'd think a guy like Rod Carew, who made contact that often, would accidentally hit one out.
Right.
But no, not once. Not a single one.
Even D. Gordon hit a home run.
Right. That still hasn't landed.
But yeah, I mean, these high contact. I mean, there were many years where, like, Tony Gwynn hit 336 with 4 home runs. But it's like, holy cow, how is that possible?
I remember when I played, when I was in my freshman year in high school, our freshman year team, we were taking batting practice, like maybe like second practice of the year. And so our coach had we were inside because it was March, right? So like, we're inside, we're not doing anything outside. So we're in the gym, and he's got with the cage comes down, and and he's got like a video camera to the side. And the whole idea was like, everyone's going to take hacks BP wise. And then afterwards we'd go, he was one of the science teachers. So like, we'll go into the science room and we'll watch, and we'll just like, not necessarily dissect swings, but we'll say like, hey, like, maybe this is where we could, hands up a little bit more, like whatever. And I was in, he's like, oh, you're a bit of a slap hitter, huh? And I like took offense to it. And he was like, dude, some of the best hitters in the world, like, don't take offense to someone saying you're a slap hitter.
Right.
And he's like, Tony Gwynn was a slap hitter. This guy was fantastic. So I'll never.
Was a slap hitter. Tony Gwynn was a slap hitter. Rod Carew was a slap hitter. Those guys did all right.
They did okay. Yeah, they did okay.
Goodness. All right. Well, I did put out a question last week. We're moving on to rounding third question about who was going to be our first overall draft pick. No one really answered that. That's fine. We still got a couple more weeks until we get that going. So we were talking after the show about our best fictional baseball starting rotation. So I did put it out on the Facebook page just to see some responses. And we did have some. So I will give their answers, and then we'll go around and give ours. This is kind of fun to think about. It was really fun for us to talk about it after the show last week. So here we go. Henley the Rose said Steve Nebraska as the ace. So he's from The Scout.
I love that movie. And one of you guys said you hadn't seen that movie before, right?
I never seen it.
Oh, man.
Never seen it.
You have to watch it. It's so good. Steve Nebraska's in my rotation, too. I love Steve Nebraska.
Dang. I got to get on it then. Chet Steadman, Ebby LaLouche, Ricky Vaughn, and then Kenny DeNunez from The Sandlot.
I love it.
So that was Henry's. Nick Fannings is absolutely hilarious. He took Henry Gardenhoser, Henry Rosenberger, Henry Rollingardner. So he just took the Rookie of the Year in all 5 spots. So
yeah,
I mean, why wouldn't you?
You know what? Well played, Nick. Well played.
It's so funny. And he goes, as my closer, I'd have Wild Thing. Of course you would. Sarah Carter also commented. She said Kit Keller from League of Their Own, Henry Rowan-Gardner, Kenny DeNunez, Miles Penfield II from the Cucumbas from Hardball, and then Ricky Vaughn.
Yep.
So those were her 5. Who do you guys have on yours?
I had I did some similar ones. Kenny DeNunez is a good one. I loved the Mel Clark from Angels in the Outfield was a good one for me. And then why can't I think of his name? Kevin Costner's character from Love of the Game.
Billy Chappell.
What was it? Chappell, thank you. Yeah, he was one. You know who I also love too from the original Bad News Bears, the daughter, Amanda. I don't know her last name. But you know the one that he goes and gets, and she's like just mowing people down.
Amanda Wurlitzer.
Was that her last name? Wurlitzer?
Yeah, Wurlitzer. Yep.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That is a good one.
Yeah, those are good ones.
Who did you have, Harrison?
So I had Ricky Vaughn. I'm always been a huge Ricky Vaughn fan. I had Billy Chappell. For Love of the Game is one of my favorite baseball movies of all time.
Me too.
I had Steve Nebraska from The Scout. I had Ryan Dunn from Summer Catch.
Ooh, great one.
And then I had Henry Rowengartner from Rookie of the Year. And then my closer would absolutely be Kenny Powers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, 100%. Fantastic. Yeah.
100%.
Kenny Powers is so good. I got Henry Rowengartner, obviously. I mean, the kid was a stud. And then Ginny Baker. I don't know if you guys remember the series. It was a 1-season series on Fox called Pitch, and she was the first female MLB player. And she threw like low to mid 90s. It was a pretty good series. They never continued it because, they just didn't. Yeah. And then Chet Steadman, Billy Chappell. And then I have
Chet a great one.
Keep in mind, Chet Steadman was played by Gary Busey. And that
damn
is
right he was.
That alone is reason to pick him.
Yep.
Damn right he was.
And then my last two here, I know I went 6 because I have an honorable mention.
And you're always that guy that adds one more.
Right? Bugs Bunny is my 5th starter. I mean, he's also my catcher, my first baseman, my entire infield and my outfield. So Bugs Bunny. And then honorable mention for me is Sam Mayday Malone from Cheers.
Good one.
So
good.
Yep.
Never saw him pitch on the field, but you knew he was a pitcher.
I will throw one more honorable mention out there for a movie that most people probably haven't seen, and that is Rigoberto Sanchez from Trouble with the Curve. If you have not seen Trouble with the Curve, that is actually a really good movie. But I've talked to a lot of people that are baseball fans that have never even heard of it.
Peanut Boy.
It is a good movie. Yeah, Peanut Boy, exactly. Peanut Boy.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good movie, and he throws a nasty curveball.
You know what? I'll just say this. You know what kills me about Rookie of the Year, and I love that movie. It was literally my favorite movie growing up. Like when Pat and I were kids, we would every day in the summertime we would watch Rookie of the Year. I'm sure my parents were just like, "This is the worst movie of all time," but we watched it every day. And then I still watch it all the time. But you know what kills me? Chet Steadman. He's supposed to be like, he's the Rocket. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball. Like the guy essentially was like Roger Clemens, right? The Rocket. I mean, that's what he was. He was Roger Clemens, best pitcher in baseball. And in the middle of the movie, they're like, Henry's like starting to warm up to the team, and they're on the plane. They're going out west in the West Coast, and he's like, "Oh, Henry, what'd you get?" Henry's like, "Chicken tenders. What about you?" He's like, "One of the best Salisbury steaks I ever had." Buddy, if you're the best pitcher in baseball, the best steak you've ever had is not on an airplane. That's the most ridiculous thing of all time. It's a throwaway line. Like, I get that it's a throwaway line. It makes me angry every time.
I hate that you pointed that out because now that's all I'm gonna hear.
I know now
it kills me.
It's ruined that movie for me now.
Like, how can you tell me that the best Salisbury steak you've ever had is on an airplane? Like, that is just that's ridiculous.
Well, let's be serious for a minute here. Like, best Salisbury steak, that's a low bar. Like,
sure,
but still,
and I recognize that. But an airplane, it's like the best one you've had on an airplane.
Not true.
Do you know another underrated baseball movie that not many people talk about is $1 Million Arm?
Yeah, or The Scout, Nick, right? The Scout.
The Scout, never heard of it, right? But $1 Million Arm, they go to India and they try to find the best cricket arms and bring them back into MLB. Like that was a pretty good movie too. But
yeah, a couple names I was surprised we didn't hear at all were Roy Hobbs from The Natural.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm also surprised we didn't hear about Nuke LaLoosh from Bull Durham.
No, someone had him. Sarah,
did somebody have him? Okay.
Sarah had him, I think. So, yeah.
I'll always remember him hitting giving up the home run off the Bull's ass, and that's all I can ever think of with that movie. I never think him was a good pitcher, but
the Bull's still there, baby. You can still get free
it
steaks.
Is still there. Free steak.
Still get free steaks. But
that was a great movie.
I mean, that was pretty cool. I mean, that was fun talking after the podcast last week about, all the arms, all the movies and stuff to put that together. So we'll try to find more interactive questions like that for you guys because you guys seem to enjoy those a lot. So
it's amazing how many baseball movies there are out there.
Right? There's a ton.
Good ones.
Yeah,
how many good
right.
baseball?
Yeah.
There's a lot of good baseball movies.
There are.
Yeah. So, they're actually talking to the NC State women's coach for basketball, and they're just giving them like rapid fire questions, and they're like, what's your favorite sports movie of all time? And he goes, For the Love of the Game.
It's a
So like
great
basketball
movie.
coach saying, baseball.
It's so
movie,
good.
It's awesome.
It is so good.
So when you guys answered the question of your top 3 baseball movies of all time, what were they?
Oh God, I don't remember. Let's go back to the tape. It changes every week.
What would you say are your top 3?
I would say Little Big League for me. For Love of the Game, probably number 1. Number 2 is probably Little Big League, and number 3, Field of Dreams. I really like.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, Rookie of the Year. I love. Trouble with the Curve is really good. It's sneaky. Moneyball. I love.
I know that's a great movie and good book too. Nick, books are those things with paper that you open up and actually look at the words on them.
Yes, thanks. I got that one.
I would say if I had a gun to my head, I'd say Moneyball 3. So for Love of the Game, Little Big League, Moneyball.
Those are good choices. I've always been a Major League, Sandlot, and For Love of the Game guy. I love Field of Dreams, and I tend to flip flop on my third choice between For Love of the Game and Field of Dreams.
I mean, I would have to go. Major League. Probably Little Big League is such.
That's such an underrated movie. It's so underrated.
The best part is when he goes in for the manager interview and just completely like crushes.
And the pitching coach like, "What?" He's like, "Any more questions?" He's like, "What do you need me for?"
Yeah,
this kid knows everything.
Yeah, it's so great.
I have not seen that movie in years. I feel like I need to rewatch it.
So good.
I watch it like once a month.
Yeah, I used to watch Major League I used to watch it the weekend or the week before baseball started every friggin' season, and I haven't done that in a few years.
And you honestly might laugh at this, but For the Love of the Game,
good movie.
I mean, why would we laugh at that?
Well, I don't know. I just like.
I love that.
Every time it's on, I watch it. Like
I love that movie.
Yeah, it's on ours.
Right in.
Yeah.
It's on ours.
Yeah, For Love of the Game is my third, and Field of Dreams kind of switches places with it occasionally.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic.
The story of Billy Chapel when he cuts his hand with the saw and all the other stuff that happens, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And those fans, like the fans at the game that they go back to, like when he finally throws it, like the fat New York guy, he's like, "Well, got to give it to him." Perfect.
Oh yeah, I love that part.
Like those guys are so funny.
Great. The final batter's that young kid who hits the ground out. And the Yankees fans are like,
the locker room.
We got to give it to him.
Yeah. I mean,
but I feel like before the next episode, Nick, you need to watch The Scout.
I'll try to find it. I'll get it.
It's so good.
Me too, man. I haven't seen it either.
It's such a good movie. I used to watch that. It was one of those movies that was like always being played like late at night on those like Comedy Central or the random movie channels.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
I mean, A League of Their Own is also way up there for me.
It is,
honestly. Like it really is. I mean, it's great. I don't know. There's just so many to pick from, but it changes week to week. Like,
oh yeah,
you could ask me this question next week, and I have 3 different ones.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. All right, so we'll throw out another question next week, but we are going to start heading home here, wrapping up some news. MLB TV announces that they're going to air 7,000 minor league games that will be included in the MLB TV package. I think this is kind of cool. However, they're still working on the blackouts issue because, like I said, I don't even have an MLB team in my state, and I'm blacked out of 3 markets. And I have 8 minor league teams in my state. I'm going to be blacked out of all of those too if they play these minor league games. So we'll see how they're trying to work through it. I've heard they're trying to figure it out. I mean, if you pay for the MLB TV subscription, you should not be blacked out. That's
I feel like for the money you pay for that subscription, you should just get like unrestricted access to everything. But I get where all these little regional and local networks get first dibs on all the local games, and I get that. But it's like, man, the NFL's figured this out. Why can't MLB figure it out?
But you can't tell. You can register who's like they can go in and be like, Nick Arno's watching the Red Sox against the Orioles game right now. So we should they could give a certain percentage to that market depending on how many viewers are watching it through their subscription. You know what I mean? Like there's a way around it. They can figure it out.
There is, and the issue they have is that MLB allowed this kind of regionalization of the networks that other sports did not. MLB went to the regional networks and allowed these teams to have these regional networks. The NFL immediately went to national networks. The NBA went to national networks. The NHL went to national networks.
Well, the NHL though is blackouts.
They do, but not as many. There's fewer regional options, but yeah, they still have some.
But they still when
Boston's a good one because of NESN.
Right. Like I have to watch the Bruins on NESN. Like I can't watch it on ESPN Plus, and I have the ESPN Plus subscription.
Yep.
But I have to watch the Bruins on NESN.
Yeah, there's a handful of teams that have blackout issues, but it's not as widespread.
Yeah. So I mean, that was kind of cool though to get 7,000 minor league games in there. So I mean, that's a really good amount of minor league games that are going to be televised, which is kind of cool.
And the cool part too is that a lot of your minor league games are in the afternoon. A lot of times they're playing like a Wednesday afternoon getaway game, and it offers people another opportunity to see baseball. And as much as we rail on baseball for not promoting young players, this is actually doing that, which is great.
Yeah,
sure,
absolutely.
Yep, it's a step in the right direction.
I love it.
Absolutely.
I think it's brilliant, and it just gives you more stuff for people to watch.
And I'm glad that baseball's not doing the thing that says, "Hey, we're going to add 7,000 games to MLB TV if you pay an extra $5 a month." Like I'm glad they're just for the fee, right? Like for what you pay, we're just going to give you this. Like I think that's the right thing to do. So
absolutely.
So do you guys both do MLB TV?
I do.
I did because I have T-Mobile and it was free last year.
Oh, sick.
Because T-Mobile does giveaway Tuesdays, and it just happened to be that Tuesday they were giving away a year of MLB TV. So I was like, boop, free.
Done.
Like, I'll take it. Yep. So
would you pay for MLB TV?
Oh, absolutely, in a heartbeat. Okay. Especially doing this, like it's kind of a no-brainer. But
yeah,
Sean and I tried to share a subscription one year, and that was when I was still in Maine, and it still wouldn't work. It was like all messed up, so it was like, dang, it knows we're in different states, so the three of us couldn't share one.
Yeah, I had MLB TV 3 years ago, and I haven't gotten it back the last couple of years because it was so frustrating to use it, but I'm gonna have to get it back this year.
Yeah, it's gotten better. I watch it through my PlayStation and it works. It's awesome.
Nice.
It's great. So, all right, moving on. Luis Garcia told he can't rock the baby this year. Thank God. So that takes about 15 seconds off his windup.
I mean, dude, that guy couldn't hit the pitch clock because of his because of the windup, not because of him standing on the mound. The dude takes forever to deliver the baseball.
Doesn't the clock stop as soon as you start your windup?
Well, the question with him was, when does the windup technically start? He's got all this like pre-windup movement.
I mean, fair, but he was told that part has to be taken out of his windup. So, yeah, he wasn't happy about it, but you know what? Life goes on. You're still gonna get paid. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy him as a pitcher. I think he's very talented, but my God, his windup is the worst in baseball. I can't watch a game that he's pitching. I just can't.
Dude, every time I play the show and he comes up, I just quit the game. I can't. It takes 25 seconds per pitch, dude.
That's so bad.
It's the worst. All right.
Quit the game.
Yeah. So this is in response to a Facebook post that we saw. They were talking about the length of game by decade. So back in started in 1972, the average game length was 2 hours and 27 minutes. 1982 went up 13 minutes, went to 2 hours, 40 minutes, and so on and so on. It gradually goes up, and then now 2022, we're 3 hours, 6 minutes. So really, it's only increased 45 minutes in 50 years.
Yep.
Right? Now, you can't tell me that the advertising in 1972 was as good as it is now. Right, the amount of advertising that they have to put on TV to pay these players and pay these teams is exponentially bigger, right? So this is the pace of, this is why the game length is so long, because they have these 3-minute commercial breaks.
Yeah, in 1972, you didn't have the same length commercial breaks. You did not have specialists coming out of the bullpen, so you weren't making changes in the 7th, the 8th, and the 9th. You weren't changing lefty-righty matchups. there were parts of the game that were different, but more than anything, you were not running all these friggin' ads at every break in the action. I remember growing up as a kid watching the games on WSBK or whatever coming out of Boston before Nesson was around, where they'd make the pitching change and they'd stay. Like you'd watch the pitcher warm up, they'd run some stats and talk for a minute.
So every now and again you see it when they run out of there. If you have a game where we have a decent number of pitching changes, you'll run into that. You'll get to like the 8th inning and they'll only have in between inning ads.
Yeah.
And then they'll keep it. But it just
they're like, let's pause
for
a station identification.
Well, there's that.
Like something like that.
But every now and again it will happen. It's just, listen, it's something that it's not just baseball, it's all sports. Like it's something that comes along with, if you want your sport, if we sit there and we want baseball to be marketed better, and we want the league to promote these players, and we want the league to promote the game, and we want all that stuff, well, that the cost that comes of that is we have to deal with this. Like, that's just how it is. Because the more we market these players, and the more we market this game, and the more popular this game is, the more expensive it's going to be, and sponsors are going to want to run ads. That's just how it works.
Yeah.
Right. So my whole point of bringing this up is not necessarily the advertising part of that piece, as much as the fans are yelling at MLB that we need to speed this up. We need to completely change the game and make it faster, make it more entertaining. When in fact, the games are, pretty much the same length as they've always been.
Yeah,
the average length of the game,
minutes.
Hasn't changed. Has it gone up a little bit? Sure. But like with the amount of advertising, like we were just talking about, that's going to automatically add an average time to your baseball game. So it's not necessarily like we don't need to make all these changes to baseball to speed the game up when, it's not the game itself that's slowing down.
Right. And I would even say, and they'll never do it because you have to give them advertised dollars back, and baseball would never do it. But if we're going to be, commercial break should be in between innings, or half, every half inning. Every half inning, we should be commercial breaks. When we go to the bullpen, we stay here. We talk about the guy that's coming in. We show some stats, and he has his 8 warm-up pitches, and we're ready to go. If that was the way baseball had it, and they didn't see dollar signs every time, we could squeeze a break in here, we wouldn't have to have this minimum 3-batter rule.
Right.
You could still do lefty righty lefty righty.
Yep.
Like, the reason why we did this minimum 3-batter rule is because of all the commercial breaks.
Right.
Yeah. So let me give you guys a stat that'll blow your mind a little bit. So MLB, the average game is 3 hours and 6 minutes. The NFL, 3 hours and 12 minutes. Nobody's screaming the NFL game takes too long, although I think it does, because the commercial breaks drive me bananas. After the kickoff, between the kickoff.
But that doesn't happen anymore. That doesn't. No, they've got
a lot of that they've taken out. But still, an NFL game
it used to be worse.
Oh yeah, it used to be way worse. An NFL game still takes 6 minutes longer.
But they play once a week.
Right.
That's
there's that. Right.
Exactly.
Well, that's
nobody's
true
complaining about the length of an NFL game because it's once a week and it's it's more action packed than baseball. What I think honestly, what's happened is the attention span of the consumer just doesn't fit baseball anymore. So we can make the game 2.5 hours. They're not going to friggin' watch it. They have to make that. They have to make the game exciting. They've got to market the personalities and the games and the matchups and the beauty of the game, and not just try to make it shorter. You rushing through a baseball game doesn't do anybody any good, because the consumers show they'll sit there for 3 hours and 12 minutes to watch a football game. How do we get them to watch a baseball game?
Yeah, it's a fair point. I mean, it's just, it's hard to sit down for 3 hours every single night and watch a full baseball game, right? I mean,
Totally.
even us diehard baseball guys, like, it's hard to dedicate 3 hours a night, 162 times plus playoffs, during the year.
Yeah,
like, I get it. Like, football,
there's a lot of
is
mornings.
once a week.
Yeah, there's a lot of mornings. I'm just grabbing the highlights and calling it good.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Because it's a lot of games.
But yeah, I mean, it was just interesting that I saw that, and like, it's not necessarily the pace of the game that has changed as much as it is. It's the advertisement length. in between innings that's causing, the length of game. The pitcher might be ready to go and the umpire's standing there like this because ESPN hasn't come back from break yet. Like it's yeah. So we're making all these changes to the game when in fact the game itself isn't really the issue.
No, and the average minor league game is 2 hours and 39 minutes, which is pretty much on pace with what it was in 1972 for MLB because there's no commercials. Right. But you're still not going to find a minor league baseball stadium sold out unless just the Savannah Bananas charging $200 a ticket. But that shows you right there. TV's added most of that 40 minutes. But at the end of the day, it's more about getting the consumer to be able to actually tune in and watch it.
Right. All right. Well, I'll get off my soapbox for a little bit about that. So we'll move on to the last thing that I have tonight is we talked about this a couple months ago about Steven Strasburg, about his season-ending, possibly career-ending arm injury. He tried to come back and he suffered a really big setback, and there's no timetable for his return. If there is anything working for Steven Strasburg, it is that he's still fairly young, right? He's 32, 33. So, I mean, hopefully he can bounce back from it. But, I mean, I don't know. It sounded really bad last year when we heard that he went down.
Yeah.
Because they pretty much said right away, they're like, yeah, this isn't good, and we don't know. And I was like, okay, that's all you're going to give us. So, but yeah, just unfortunate because, I mean, we were kind of talking before the show, like, has Steven Strasburg done enough for the Hall of Fame? Like, could he have a quote unquote Sandy Koufax type career? Like, has he done it, long enough to earn those Hall of Fame numbers? Was the guy dominant? Absolutely. 1,000% dominant when the guy was on the hill. But did he do it long enough? What do we think?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's 1,400 innings in his career. He doesn't have 2,000 innings. No, I think I would like to see, for a guy that's pitched 13 years, a lot injury riddled. Doesn't have a Cy Young, twice finished in the top 5, once finished in the top 3. Did win a title. So, I mean, he was there and he was a big part of that. Certainly was a huge part of that team that went ahead and won the World Series. But I don't know. And I'm the one that posited the question to you guys. I just don't know if it's enough. 1,470 total innings. The wins and losses don't move me as much as they might move someone else. Like, it's just, especially in baseball, like, wins and losses are just so team oriented. Like, it's like you could be on a terrible team and pitch your nutbag off and win like 12 games. Like, that's not like that doesn't say that much.
That's the story of Nolan Ryan's career. The dude was
the
dude's just slightly above 500 pitcher because he pitched on so many bad teams.
Sure. But it's just it's how many injury riddled seasons Strasburg. Yeah. And I guess, Nick, to the point that you made earlier, like, was he dominant when he was out there? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he was for a large part of his healthy career. He was must watch, must tune in.
Absolutely.
But I just don't know if it was enough.
Well, he was a good pitcher on a lot of bad teams too, which is amazing. He was above 500 on really bad teams with great numbers, and I think he was on a Hall of Fame trajectory until these injuries have basically cost him the last 3 years. And now the question becomes, does he ever come back? Based on what he's done to this point, is he Hall of Famer? Probably not, but he would have been if he could have gotten on the field.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I would certainly say, and I don't know if the Nationals have a Hall of Fame / Ring of Honor / whatever. He's in that. Whatever that is,
100%.
He's in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't know about Cooperstown. I don't know about Cooperstown.
There should be a statue next to Ryan Zimmerman's outside of Nationals Park for him.
Absolutely, 1,000%. 1,000%.
Agreed. He was part of adding relevancy to that organization.
And brought him a title. Like, he was huge in that playoff run. Huge.
Oh,
and
they
also
don't do it without him. They don't win it without him.
And the drafting of Strasburg changed the whole trajectory of that organization. It put them on a winning path. Yeah. He was that difference maker player that brought them got them rolling in the right direction.
Absolutely. All right. That's all I had. Do you guys have anything else to add for this week?
Yeah. One thing to add. So as we've talked about on past episodes, the MLB owners are a little bit nervous about Steve Cohen's spending. So the MLB owners have created an economic reform committee to focus on competitive balance and broadcast deals. The goal being that this is the first step. This is believed to be the first step towards the owners coming together to create a salary cap and make that an issue in the next CBA, as Sean mentioned earlier. But also, it is looking at how do you take some of these regional television networks and national television networks, start to get away from blackouts and start to make baseball more approachable to everybody. So, on one hand, they're doing it because they're afraid of Steve Cohen spending. On the other hand, they're trying to bring together the league in a way to begin to negotiate globally versus independently. The committee right now consists of 3 owners. It's John Henry of the Red Sox, Chris Ilitch of the Tigers, and Dick Monfort of the Rockies. There are other owners that are going to be members of the committee coming in and out, but those are the 3 key members. And they are looking hard at broadcast deals, how to deal with the regional issues, how to potentially look at putting a salary cap in place. How do you get control of spending? It's an interesting approach from MLB to start to get into that sort of stuff.
I actually saw something that was funny is that when they do this committee and they're like, oh, well, how come these other teams didn't form a committee when you weren't spending the revenue sharing? Right. And then it's like, and then underneath it says the Pittsburgh Pirates have left the chat. It's like,
but we talked about that with the last CBA. Like, if MLB is going to put a salary cap in place, they got to put a floor in place. You can't let these teams spend.
And I think they will. I mean, pretty
absolutely.
much every league that has a cap has a floor.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's just that we don't really talk about the floor because the cap is what's always threatened. Like, there will be, if there's a cap that's put in, there will be a floor.
Well,
I'm not.
And you know why we don't talk about the floor? Because the teams that spend at the floor suck, and they're not worth talking about.
Right, but they're meeting they're meeting the minimum.
Right, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? And it's like, listen,
it's like getting meets expectations on your review.
Well, the thing with baseball right now is because there's no floor, we can equally shit on the Athletics and the Rockies as much as we can shit on the Mets and someone else because we're like, oh, this guy spends so much, but these guys spend so little.
Yeah.
But if the floor is moved up to here, and if the Rockies and A's are spending, then like, hey.
Yeah, it's better for baseball. And ultimately, there's more money available to players if those teams that are below the floor come up, and you pull the couple of teams that are above it down. There's actually more money overall in the game that way. So it's good to see MLB address this issue and get real about the fact that they need to deal with some of these things, like the network deals, like the blackouts, like the spending issue, the over and the underspending. I don't know what it leads to, but it's nice to see them actually do it. But they've got their work cut out for them because I think the other leagues have done a better job of cleaning up that kind of crap, and MLB's still dealing with years later.
Yep. I mean, we talked about it last week. I will say this last thing, Nick. Sorry. No, I think we are at that boiling point, though. Where I think the players, for years, we've said, well, baseball's never going to get a salary cap because the players won't allow it. I think we are at that boiling point, though, where the union is going to look at the future of where the game's going, and the players are going to say, we kind of got to put this in.
Yep.
We don't love the idea, and maybe we just have to hold our nose and jump in, but we got to put this in because it for the devil's advocate that I was playing last week, you got to put it in. It's time.
Yeah, it's time for MLB to address these issues they've danced around for the last decade.
Yeah, it's time.
All right. Anything else tonight, fellas?
No. WBC starts in a couple of weeks. We've got some baseball that's meaningful. Teams are at spring training, getting ready. So I feel like we're there. We're coming up on meaningful spring training games here soon.
Goodness. Our second full year of baseball coming for this podcast. Man, this has been a blast. It's been a ride, and I can't wait to keep going. So,
and we picked a hell of a first year to start, right?
Oh my God, that was a tough winter. That was a real tough winter, but you know what? We got through it, muscled through it. All right. So next, I will throw out question of the week next week on Facebook. We will go over the NL Central Division, our preview for that next week.
That'll be a fun one.
That will be a fun one. That one will be tight. I mean, I'm curious to see where the Cubs end up, to see if they leapfrog the Brewers, see what your thoughts are on that. And then we move on to the best all-time second baseman and the best 3 second basemen right now. So tune in next week, Monday at 8, and we'll see y'all then.
See ya.
All right.